So, I want to talk about my favorite books that I read in the year 2024. Now, I read about 14 books total throughout the year, and I want to just go through and give my quick little blurbs about each one of them. I like them all, but I definitely have a favorite, and I have a least favorite, we'll say. So, hopefully that's something that you're interested in. If you are interested, I would love for you to stick around, obviously, and watch the video, but please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and I would love for you to like this video because that lets me know that you like me. Also, if you feel frisky, you can leave a comment saying if you've read any of these books, maybe. If you have any book suggestions that you want me to read, maybe in this year. Or you could just say hi. Saying hi is cool too. Okay, let's do it! I'm going to take this list that I have on my computer of the 14 books, and I'm going to take each of the books and I'm just going to look up like a quick little summary of each of them, and I'll just like read that out because honestly, some of them I kind of forgot the full story. Like I could try my best. Or maybe that's more fun. Maybe actually I'm gonna try my best and just like see what I remember from each of the books. If any of these summaries are wrong, just Google them. I'm gonna go off of what I remember from the books. Like I said, I read these in 2024. I was on a cruise ship. Some days I was reading, but I like wasn't really paying attention. And other days I was really sunken into the story. So my summaries will reflect that. And it has nothing to do with the books. Some of them has to do with the books, but okay. Anyway, here we go. Starting with the first one, The Immortalist. This is a book by Chloe Benjamin. I'll try to list these all somewhere, but The Immortalist was the first book I read. Now, from what I remember, like I said, this one was the first one I read last year, so it's been a while. And I also read this one very slowly because I was going through our process of tech rehearsals. So it was kind of, I was reading, but I wasn't like really locked in. This is about 4 siblings, and you go through their lives. They're each trying to find their own purpose in this world, is what I got from it. So each one of them has their own journeys and struggles, and each one of them, you know, you get to the end of their lives. And I thought it was great. I thought it was a good book. It took me a while to get into it, I think, but I think at the end I felt overall good about it. I don't know if I technically learned anything about it other than I guess like the connection of family was what I got from it. I don't know if that's like what you're supposed to get from it, but I do remember feeling like I should call my brother, which is always like a good feeling, I think, because it's like, oh, like it makes me think of family and things. Okay, so that's what I got from it. It's 4 siblings trying to find their purpose, and you go through each of their timelines, and then they die. Let's look at what the internet says. So, the internet is saying, it's 1969 in New York City's Lower East Side, and word has spread of the arrival of a mystical woman, a traveling psychic who claims to be able to tell anyone the day they will die. The Gold Children, 4 adolescents on the cusp of self-awareness, sneak out to hear their fortunes. Of course, that's a great description of the book. That's literally what it is. Like, they go to this woman, she tells them their fortune of when they're gonna die, and then they all live their lives according to that. Basically, like, it's this whole thing of like, well, now that you know that you're gonna die, what are you gonna do with your life? And they each have their own version of it, and I think each version has its like merits and has its obviously downfalls. That's The Immortalist. I thought it was a good book. I would give it like 3.5 out of 5. I'll say. I read it too slow. I think if I was really focused on it, maybe I would give it a higher rating. But the other thing is I'm gonna give things really high ratings because I'm very easy to please. So my ratings may not be your ratings, but bear with me, baby dolls. Okay, next, The Other Black Girl. This book I've had on my bookshelf for a long time, and when I was going to do the last ship that I did, I saw it on the shelf. I had 1 or 2 other books, I think, with already in my suitcase, and I was gonna buy more, of course, when I got wherever I was going. But I was like, you know what? Let's just take it. I feel like this will be like a fun, simple read. I got it on sale somewhere, so I don't even remember like physically being like, I want this book. I just remember seeing it and being like, I should read that book. So I did, and I really enjoyed it. I read this one quicker than I read The Immortalist, but this one really kind of like got me immediately into the story. And I think it was because The Immortalist was not heightened, but it's a different time period. It was the 50s, 60s. It goes through like obviously decades of their lives. The Other Black Girl is modern time, and so I think that just kind of like captured my attention faster. So this is The Other Black Girl by Zakiya, Dalila Harris, I want to say her name is. I hope that's her name. It's a Hulu show. Oh my gosh, I forgot there's a Hulu series that they made. I should watch that actually. Okay, so The Other Black Girl, from my memory, is about a black woman living in New York, actually, I want to say as well. Maybe not, a large city, but she works at a book publishing office, and she works for this really successful book editor who's white and older and woman. And she wants to be an author herself, I want to say. And so she's not really progressing. Oh no, sorry, she doesn't want to be an author, she wants to be an editor, right? I don't know. She wants to be whatever her boss's job is, let's say. And so she is not really progressing in this company, and she's also the only black person in the company, is what I remember. She's not really happy with her job, but she wants to keep doing it, obviously, to like eventually move up in the corporate ladder. So then another black girl moves into applies for a job, and the main character, she is immediately like, oh my god, sister, we're gonna be best friends because we're both black and we're both women. So she's like, camaraderie, and it's gonna be great. Conflict ensues. Oh wait, okay, no, actually, just kidding. Nella doesn't want to be her friend at first. I think she sees her as competition, and then the other black girl ends up being really nice and cool, and then Nella's like, oh, we are friends. And then there's like a bunch of, once again, I'm giving spoilers, but like, read the books. There's all this like weird mystery around the new girl and how she knows information about Nella, how she knows information about like the publishing company, things like that. And so there's this group of black women who are trying to make other black women like them and make them very one, like hive mind almost, is what I got from it. The Other Black Girl is a psychological thriller about Nella, a young black woman working as an editorial assistant at a predominantly white publishing house, who feels isolated until a new black colleague, Hazel, arrives. But as Hazel quickly becomes the office favorite, Nella begins to suspect a sinister agenda behind her sudden popularity, uncovering a disturbing secret network within the company that manipulates black employees to fit a specific image, forcing Nella to question her own identity and career aspirations within the workplace. That was one sentence. Yeah, it's this, there's like this chapter I remember that was like, so I was like, oh my gosh, like what's going on? There's a chapter where you meet Hazel's friends, and it's Nella and her friend who has no connection to Hazel, but they're meeting all of the friends, and at first it's like, oh my gosh, this is so cool, like sisterhood, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait, what'd you say? And like, wait, what's going on? There's a hair product. There's like this gel that they put in their hair, and that's like how they get brainwashed. And I remember they describe Hazel when she first comes in. Nella's like, oh my gosh, she smells amazing. And like, there's like, I can't really put my finger on what the smell is. And then you learn later that is like, that's a big device that they're using to brainwash almost. It's so interesting. I thought it was cool. This one I'm gonna say, now, I said I caught into it faster than I caught into Immortalist. However, I'm still going to give it 3.5 out of 5 stars. And I'm basing this scale, my star scale, off of what is the 5 stars that's coming. It was a good book. I loved it. It was quick enough to read on the beach. Okay, next I read after, oh my gosh. Okay, guys. I looped this into like a big series because I could do a whole month-long dissertation about this author. Unfortunately, it's the one that if you're on TikTok at all, in the book section of TikTok, you do know about this woman, and I think it's either like a love or hate. I don't think there's like a neutral position on her. Sarah J. Maas, specifically the Throne of Glass series. My God, it was a journey. This took up the majority of my contract, which was 6 months, and I read these books. Actually, I read them pretty quickly though, but Throne of Glass, I started a few weeks before my actual contract started, I guess, weeks or something like that. So I read the first 2 books, then went to the ship. So I read some other books to give myself a palate cleanser, because I had just read her other series. Sarah J. Maas has a series called A Court of Thorns and Roses, and that's a whole series. And then Throne of Glass is its own series, and then Crescent City, which is coming later, is its own series. So she has these 3. Probably know others, but those are the big 3. And so I read ACOTAR, which is The Court of Thorns and Roses. I read that years ago and was immediately like, okay, I have to keep going. Like, what else can I consume? I need more. And so I did that with Throne of Glass, but it was just like too much. So I wanted to change it, and that's why I read, some more realistic books like The Immortalists and Other Black Girl. And then I was like, okay, I'm ready to go back. So then I went into the rest of the series. Now, there are multiple ways you can read through the series. It's not necessarily like a pick your own adventure. Like there's an order. Obviously, like chronologically, there's an order. But within that order, people have created their own ways of reading it in order for it to make the most sense for that read through. So there's people that read it multiple times. I have not done that personally. Maybe I will do it one day. I say that I was gonna repeat it, but I think now I've kind of like lost the lost the joy. But anyway, the titles on their own are The Assassin's Blade, Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, Heir of Fire, Queen of Shadows, Empire of Storms, Tower of Dawn, and Kingdom of Ash. Now, as I was reading those out, I do think I read it in this order. So whatever that order is, which I guess is the order it came out. No, that's not true. That's the order that I read it through. There's a thing, once again, I think I'll do like a whole deep dive. Maybe once I have finished all the books. Yeah. So maybe I'll do a deep dive on Sarah J. Maas. I'll do a little like research and like we can like do that. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, Throne of Glass, the series, is great. It centers around a woman who is on a journey. I mean, there's many different journeys, I guess, that she goes on. But the first journey is to be rich, is what I get from it. Like, if you want to boil it down, she just wants to be rich and, like, successful and happy. Because that's how her family was before a very bad event happened. I'm trying not to give spoilers on this one, because this one is, like, you should read this one. And it's the whole series. Like, I feel like if I say one thing, it's gonna, like, ruin, like, 4 of the books. Whereas the other ones, it's like, nah. But still, once again, obviously, like, these books have been out for a while now, so it's not my fault. Or skip ahead. Also, we could say that. Just skip ahead. Anyway, the girl is on her journey to be as rich as possible. She gets taken under the wing of this famous assassin. She starts doing that, becomes infamous for being this assassin, and then has a new assignment to work for the king as his personal assassin. Because there's gonna be this whole competition to see who's like the baddest assassin, basically. So she meets Hot Boy number 1 and Hot Boy number 2. Hot Boy number 1 is son of the king, and Hot Boy number 2 is like leader of the king's guard, I think, is his thing. Hot Boy 1 and Hot Boy 2 both want her, but Hot Boy 2 wins out eventually. And then Hot Boy 1 also becomes like, it's like a good relationship in a different way, like not sexual way. And then eventually it gets into fairy world. Eventually gets into the world of fairies, and she meets Hot Boy number 3, who's Hot Fae. And Hot Fae number 3 wins ultimately the love of main girl. And along the way, it's a very it's a enemies to lovers storyline. You know this. I feel like I'm in a padded room talking to someone who is like about to inject me with morphine because I need to go to sleep. Anyway, they hate each other at first, Hot Fae and Hot Girl. And so they eventually start to love each other. And then his boss is crazy as well and wants her dead because she's powerful and the queen's powerful. And so then they're fighting. And then the queen has sisters. And the sisters are spiders. Or one of the sisters, at least one of the sisters is a spider, it turns out. It's a whole thing. Anyway, it was great. I have to read like an overview. The summary for this series is one sentence. The story follows the journey of Selena Sardothian, Selena S., a teenage assassin in a corrupt kingdom with the tyrannical ruler, the king of Adarlan. I've actually never said any of those names out loud. And crazy. I feel crazy. Yeah, so that's basically it. Anyway, we're gonna rate the entire series. I'm gonna say the entire series. I think if I had to pick a favorite book, it's the last one. Because it just I love when things are wrapped up. And also it was big, and so they had a lot of time to really wrap up things. Like, it was, like, very much, like, she combed through all the... yeah, there's, like, 1 or 2 things I wish would have, like, been more clear, I guess, at the end. But, for the most part, yeah, Kingdom of Ash is my favorite one of the series. But the whole series, we're gonna give it a 4 out of 5, because, wow. I went through a roller coaster, and I just went through another roller coaster trying to remember the whole plot of that story. Crescent City. Okay, so I finished Throne of Glass, and I moved to another Sarah J. Maas book, but it was the 3rd book in the series called Crescent City. This one is, Throne of Glass is more Game of Thrones-ish in terms of time period. It's like very like medieval, very we don't bathe, very old, giving very old maiden type. I like Crescent City compared to the other Sarah J Maas books because it's modern, and so there's no way for them to be like, oh my god, I didn't know because they were like across the city, like I had no idea. I mean, it does happen, but they have phones and they have emails and they have television, so they have all these like modern devices of getting information out, and I feel like that just adds such a layer of like urgency to all these things that happen in these books, specifically in this one, because I was like, whoa, there were so many like little turns and things that happened that I was like, whoa. So Crescent City is, like I said, the modern one of the three series. It centers on a girl named Bryce. Bryce is a baddie. I do, like, objectively in my mind place Bryce as like the hottest one of the three main protagonists, I guess, of the series. That is so like objectifying, but she just like gives off like she's the bad one, like the baddest. I love her. And so she is a girl who works for a woman who collects like valuables, basically. Oh my god. She meets a hot guy. Once again, it's like enemies to lovers. He's like, oh, I can't love you because I am broken because of this war that went on for years. He's an angel, literally. And it's this whole like, I'm such a broken boy. And then she's also broken because like her best friend, like something bad happened to her. Once again, trying not to spoil it, but that happens in like the first like 100 pages. So like, that happens to her friend and her boo, and then she finds this guy. They like, it's this whole journey. This one specifically is a lot of like, are you good, are you bad, are you good, are you bad, are you good, are you bad. Like, so many of the characters that are like end up being villains start as like, oh, I guess they're like good, and then it's like the people that are start out as villains, like you're like, well, like, and then it's like people have their own like objectives. So that's why I liked it, honestly, because it's like you never really know what's gonna happen. It never got annoying to me. I feel like that can get really old very quickly, but I kind of enjoyed it in this book. In terms of plot, I don't even know. Like, I honestly don't even remember the plot, so I'm just gonna go ahead and look it up. I remember that there's something about like their life force. They have to like sacrifice, like they give literally like a blood offering is what I remember it being, to power the city. Like it's like the electricity is like the blood, or like the life force of the people. That's what I remember. In the Crescent City series, half fae and half human Bryce Quinlan seeks revenge in a contemporary fantasy world of magic, danger, and searing romance. Yeah. Yeah. Why not? She seeks revenge is a very good. That is very much like her MO the entire time. Like all three books, she is like, you did me wrong and I'm gonna do you wrong because you did me wrong. And honestly, sometimes it's justified. Most times it like, she's like acted too fast, I think sometimes. And it's like, if we all just took 2 seconds here, we would have like a better way of doing this. Once again, they're long, they're like dense books, so like I get it, like you have to like go through the whole thing, but sometimes that was the only thing that annoyed me, I think, about my girl Bryce, is that yeah, sometimes she just like acted like too fast, and it's like, girl, like you have this big old angel dude who can help you. You have sister girl who's a deer. You got Doe the deer, Bambi over here, who can also probably help you if you just like spoke to someone. You've got Bayonetta, a girl who, you know, actually an assassin, speaking of, from Throne of Glass, different assassin. But she can help. It's like there were just so many people that like really could have helped her. But then she was always like, I gotta do it on my own. So she would like leave in the middle of the night, or like people would like be somewhere else and then she would go do things. Now, there were times where that was needed and like she ended up helping like the whole situation by doing things on her own. And then of course like after that would happen, like the angel, I can't remember his name, Hunt, would be like, and like then they would like kiss. Crescent City gets a 4. A 4. I would rate it the same as Throne of Glass, because it was good, but it's like, I had to take a break on Sarah J Maas. I love her, but she's one horned up woman, let me tell you. she's gonna write a sex scene, and it's gonna be all over the pants. Also, the sex scene is never gonna actually be penetration until like one pump, and then it's like, oh, okay. But the build up, crazy. Here's another. This is just a duology, I believe they're called, when it's just 2 books in the series. The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. I want to say Jemisin. is the first book, and then there's another one that follows it. But I remember specifically the cover of this book just like really stood out to me. It's like really cool. Yeah, the cover really spoke to me, and that's why I ended up picking up this book. But once I looked at the back of it, I was like, oh, slay. And it really sounded and was something that I was like very interested in. It's sci-fi. It takes place in New York, which is like one of my favorite places, whatever. But it's like, it was like the familiarity of like knowing the New York boroughs and the like a little like adventuristic. It almost felt like Lovecraftian in a way. Lovecraft, real quick. Lovecraftian is a term used to describe the subgenre of horror, fantasy, and science fiction that is named after Lovecraft. It emphasizes the horror of the unknowable and incomprehensible, explores the meaninglessness of human existence in a mechanical universe, often includes themes of civilizational decline. That is like a big one that I kind of like got from this. I don't know if that's like what Miss Girl was going for, but I loved it. I thought it was like fantastical in a way that was like an action movie, if you will. Now, I haven't said the summary. The City We Became and The World We Make, I think, is a sequel. Every time a major city becomes what it's known as today, i.e. New York, London, Paris, big cities around the world, whenever they become like the big city, an avatar is born, and that avatar is forever tethered and connected to the city. So they feel as the city feels. Things manifest in them that come from the city. So for instance, like this is where you'll see why I rated it. But Paris was like really fashionable and stylish and like has a really sharp tongue also. Oh, and then like Istanbul, for instance, was like he was a cat guy. Like he had all these cats that like helped like feed them, but also like the cats were one of the manifestations of the city. So like he could feel the cats, and the cats were the city. So New York City is such a big city and such a big, unique place that they, instead of one avatar being born, there's 6 that are born, and it's one for each of the boroughs, and then there's like a New York. Queens, Brooklyn, the Bronx, Manhattan, Staten Island, and New York itself. I think that's it. So when the New York City becomes New York City, each one of these avatars are born. And it's like the first time this has ever happened. Usually a city is just a city. And so with them all being who they are, they feel each other as if they're like a hive mind, sort of like one person sort of deal. And they're like, what's going on? And so they eventually find each other and they have to save each other. And the whole plot of the stories are they're saving New York City from gentrification, basically. And there is this like villain that is a planet that wants to take over Earth, but the major cities are like protecting it and by keeping everything individual, whereas this planet has like done this to other planets before and it's made them all uniform and very like the same. Of course it's like, you know, gentrification, but it's like literally like white spores is like their whole symbolism, and tentacles and things like that, but it's always white. So the boroughs have to defend New York City is the whole first book, is they have to defend New York City, and then the second book becomes they have to defend the world with the rest of these large cities. Like, anyway, The City We Became takes place in New York City, in a world in which major cities become sentient through human avatars. After the avatar of New York falls into a supernatural coma and vanishes, 5 new avatars representing the city's 5 boroughs come together to fight their common enemy. That's The City We Became, and then like I said, the second book just kind of continues on. Now, I like the idea of this book, and the author like creates her own world, and it comes with like language. It's almost like I wish there was like a guide for the books, because there's so many things that I'm like, wait, what? Oh, wait, what happened? And like there's no explanation, and we just move forward. And so I think at the time I was like, okay, cool, just moving forward, thinking that they would be explained later. And then I got to the end of the second book, and was like, nice. And then I took a few weeks away from the book, and I was like, I don't really, like, I wish there was more, I guess. And maybe that would come from like more books, or like maybe it's a thing that I want it to be a series so I can like see some of the things played out more. But there were just like little holes that I was like, specifically with the battles. Like there would be these big fight scenes that were about, it would like build up to a fight scene, then all of a sudden it would be like over, and it's like, oh, but what, like, how did it end? And like, it feels like they just do like one like little and then it's done, which once again is cool, and like I get that obviously you have to move on, but I think that's why it's a little lower on my rating scale. I'm gonna say 3 out of 5, because I love the idea still. I think it's a little less than Immortalists, because even though I did enjoy it more as like a world, it took me so long to really get into it. And then once I got into it, I think there were some times where I would just have to skip over things that I really wish I could like digest more, I guess. But I love the messaging also, I think, of this one. So 3 out of 5. Oh, I read The Palace of Eros. Okay, this was literally, I was like in the airport going home for my contract finishing, and I saw this on a shelf and was like, seems interesting, and just like picked it up, and it was way too much money, but I had no book to read on the flight, and I was like intent on reading, so I was like, I'm gonna pick this book up, and I read it in the flight home. I read half of the book, and then when I got home the next day, I finished it. It was so good. It was so sweet. Eros obviously is like the god of love, or I don't know if they're a god, but Cupid is Eros. So this is Eros, who, like I said, is basically Cupid. So Aphrodite is their mom, and Aphrodite is the goddess of love and the goddess of passion and all the things. And I love the way they paint Aphrodite in this book, because like they make her such like a little bitch. And I love it. She's like a diva, which is how I picture Aphrodite. Like, of course, she's like stunning, but like everyone that's that beautiful, of course they're gonna be like, what do you mean you're not looking at me? Like anytime the attention's not on her, she's like. So I love that. Eros' whole thing is making people fall in love. And I think the way that we think of Cupid is like very like much like, I love love, oh my god, so cute. Which yes, but also there are times where like those people don't want to be in love, and people are being forced to now be in love, basically. So it's like kind of weird, like the gods have a lot, the Greek gods were forcing Eros to make decisions that Eros didn't want to do. And so Eros at one point, I believe, I actually don't remember how they find each other, but I know that Psyche, Eros finds Psyche, and they fall in love, but Psyche can never see Eros because that would ruin. There's the rule that gods and humans can't be together, I think, is like a rule. Or maybe it's specific to Eros. I forgot. But there's that rule. So then Eros, to get around that rule, only sees Psyche in the nighttime and like in complete pitch black darkness, and they go at it. And when they finish going at it, Eros yeets out of there, and Psyche has this whole palace to herself, hence Palace of Eros. And so Psyche comes from a land where she's not that pretty, where she's considered a fugly girl by her family, and all of her sisters get wived up, purchased. It's that sort of thing, like they're purchased basically as wives, and she's the one who doesn't get purchased. And so that's like shameful, all these things, and the Eros spots her and falls in love. And then the gods, specifically Zeus, who is a butthole, which once again, I always picture him as a butthole. Zeus figures out that Eros has done this with Psyche and chooses to punish Eros by making Eros choose, basically, like to be a boy or a girl, I want to say, because Eros is non-binary, so they have all the parts, baby. Specifically as a non-binary deity, I should say. That's not like everyone non-binary person's journey, but as the deity Eros, they can pick and choose which physically anatomy they can choose which anatomy they want to display in order to please Psyche. That's like the whole thing of displaying it, is to please their lover, which is Psyche. So basically Eros is punished, has to eventually tell Psyche their secret, and Psyche is also at the same time going crazy all the time because she's never seen Eros in person. So she's like, who is this man? She keeps calling him a man. And it's, once they are introduced, then that becomes a whole problem. I thought it was so beautiful. It's a literary gift to see gender expansiveness depicted in an ancient myth with such grace and ease. I will agree. Oh, the reason I also picked this up was because it gave off Circe and Son of Achilles vibes. Ooh, this one's a long one. Young, headstrong Psyche has captured the eyes of every suitor in town and far beyond with her temptationist beauty. She's not fugly. I got that wrong. She's beautiful. Why are they mean to her? She's stunning, which makes her irresistible yet undesirable as a wife. Secretly, she longs for a life away from the expectations and demands of men. When her father realizes that the future of his family and town will forever be cursed unless he appeases an enraged Aphrodite, he follows the orders of the oracle, tying Psyche to a rock to be ravaged by a monstrous husband. And yet, the monster never arrives. I do remember Aphrodite coming and smiting them. Maybe it's because she's so beautiful. Maybe that's what it was. I don't know. When Eros, non-binary deity of desire, sees Psyche, she cannot fulfill her promise to her mother, Aphrodite, to destroy the mortal young woman. That's what it is. Aphrodite hates Psyche because she's stunned. So she wants Eros to kill, which is hence the monster's husband. And so instead, Eros takes Psyche to this palace that's hidden away, and no one can see it because God powers, I don't know. And they fall in love. Each night, Eros visits Psyche under the cover of impenetrable darkness when they both experience untold passion and love. But each morning, Eros flies away before the light comes. I would rate Palace of Eros 4. I'm going to say 4 out of 5 because I really did enjoy it. I don't think I remember most of it, but I would read it again for sure. Now, we're near the end of my books for the year. This one, unfortunately, is going to be my least liked book of the year. This is Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. I read them one after the other, and I know that there is a new book that came out this year. I'm not reading it. This was suggested to me by my friends who suggested I read the Sarah J. Maas works, and I'm so thankful to those friends for introducing me to Sarah J. Maas. And I'm glad that I read these books, but I don't need to read the third one. I like Sarah J. Maas books, not to compare women, but I like Sarah J. Maas books because within the like sexy ooh, let's get spicy and fun sort of thing, there's still a lot of like other stuff going on. And Fourth Wing started out so well in that way, and I was like, I'm so excited. It's this girl who does not want to be like a dragon rider, whatever they're called, like they ride dragons basically and get mated with dragons. So they become soldiers. She doesn't want to do that. She wants to be like a historian. She wants to like help in the library sort of deal. But her mom and her sister and everyone else has been this type of thing. Just kidding. Her mom and her sister, her dad was a scribe. And so she wants to do that. And her mom is like, absolutely not. Your choice is a rider or you die. And so she becomes a rider, and she ends up like, you know, mating with this really cool dragon. And there's another thing that happens. And so that part, love. I think that's so cool. Like the fact that they're like in this academy that's like kind of Hogwarts-esque, but like very much like a war or like an army kind of ROTC sort of deal. I like that part. I thought that part was great. And then obviously once again, it's like that enemies to lover thing where she like this guy who was wronged by her mom decades ago, and like all these people that are the rebels, they're called, he's like, I hate you so much, and she's like, well, I'm scared of you, and also I hate you, and then all of a sudden they're like, I want to kiss you, and it's like, oh my god, and it becomes this whole love story. That part is sweet. I get it. But this one, I feel like I remember reading, and once again, no shade to this author, like, I'm sure she's fine and rich, whatever. So, like, she'll be fine. I feel like when I was reading this book, there was a point, and I saw this online, and it really, like, put into words, because I've never read fan fiction before, but there was a person that's like, this feels like I'm just reading published fan fiction, and I was like, that is the feeling that I was getting. There was something that just felt juvenile, almost, about it. Like, it was very just, like, they just like don't listen to each other, the main characters. Like they'll try to have conversations, but one of them will all of a sudden just say no and like stop listening, and then they'll just like not understand each other for like a while, like a few chapters of them just being like, well, they kind of hinted towards them not liking this one thing, and it's like, if you just opened your mouth and said that, I bet you'd be fine. And this book would be 200 pages shorter. I just got mad because I was so excited when I first read it. And then it like was the second book specifically, I think, really just like disappointed me. And I don't get disappointed. Oh my god, it's 4.6. Maybe I'm the problem. It's 4.6 out of 5 on Goodreads. So I guess people love it. In Fourth Wing, Violet is a young woman who is forced by her mother, a military general, to give up her goal of becoming a scribe and to instead enroll to be trained as an elite dragon rider. The training of dragon riders is brutal and competitive, with only a fraction of the cadets making it through the first year of their training. Their goal is to bond with a dragon so that they can be bestowed with the powers that bond holds, or to die trying. Meanwhile, uprising and attacks upon the kingdom and its borders have steadily increased, and Violet's training will soon plunge her into a political and military landscape that is complex and potentially deadly. Sickening. So that's the first one. And then the second one, basically, like, it continues in that world of, like, oh my god, there's a war actually coming, and leadership has, like, not been forthcoming with what is actually happening in the world. Like, they've shielded a lot of the public from what's happening. And so it becomes this, like, you know, like, rebels versus the government or whatever. I'm gonna give this one, like, 2 stars out of 5. My lowest ranking. Because it's, like, Yeah, the first one, like I said, the first one's better than the second one, and then there's now a third one. I don't know about the third one. I'm not going to read the third one. I just didn't like it. I remember I spent a lot of the book mad, and I think that's why I finished them, because I wanted to have satisfaction from being mad. Like, I was hoping that it was like a frustrating thing that then there would be a satisfying ending to. And yeah, there were some moments that I was like, work, but then for the most part I still ended and was like, so the author is Rebecca Yarros. I forgot to say her name. We're at our last book. This last book is one of my favorite books that I've ever read in my whole stinking life, and I cried and I laughed. I got mad in this one as well because there was just such. This book is called Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. It's not new. I mean, it's recent. It was the book of the year. It had like some really prestigious, like, the one book basically to read a couple of years ago. And I remember I saw it then and was like, oh, okay, cool. And then I like didn't really think anything of it. And then they released a new cover. Once again, like the City We Became, the cover stuck out to me of when I saw this one. And I got this book. This is like so cool. I got this book in Gibraltar. It's the UK, but it's not the UK because it's Spanish. It is, yeah, it's on Spain's south coast. You can't take me, I'm so smart. I got this at a bookstore there that is so cute, and I can't wait to go back because I'm going back this year on my contract. But that bookstore was so adorable. So I got a Fourth Wing and Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow at this store. And I love Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. Ah. Okay, so this one centers around two best friends. They have a very rough relationship because, I mean, they both like just have like hard lives, honestly. And they meet at a hospital because Sam is in the hospital and Sadie is there for her sister, supporting her sister. And so that's how they become friends. They bond over Sam playing a video game, and then Sadie finds Sam playing the video game, and then eventually they play the game together, and they just have this like love for computers and that sort of deal. They end up going their separate ways, going to college. Something bad happens in the hospital with their friendship, and they go to college, and then they end up linking up again. They develop video games, basically. They just like throughout the years become this like video game company together, and yeah, a lot of life happens. Like in the most, it's funny because I started with the Immortalists at the beginning of the year, and this one is also just very much like life happens to all these people. But I think why this one stuck out to me so much was that it felt closer to home. Once again, this was like the 80s, I think, where it's like 80s versus like the whatever 60s and Immortalist is. I think I relate to Sam and Sadie as well. There are parts of me that like I felt for them so hard. Oh my gosh, there's like a third. Marx is Sam's roommate at one point, and then he becomes just like integral to the company as well. But oh my gosh, yeah, so it's great. Anyway, the Google version of the summary, it's by Gabrielle Zevin. Tells the story of Sadie and Sam, two childhood friends who bond over video games and later reunite in college to create a successful video game company together, navigating the highs and lows of their complex friendship over many years, marked by love, loss, creative triumphs, and personal struggles, all while exploring the world of video game development and the nature of enduring connections. I'm gonna cry. It was just so cool because like they loved video games. Obviously, it was like the reason that they became friends. And then they both are such artists in their way of creating. Like, they're creating art, basically, these video games, which you don't really think of video games as. You're just kind of like, oh, like, it's like a technology. Like, it's very not... It feels like it can be very mathematical and robotic. But the way that they, specifically in the book, just talked about video games, like, you could tell that there was such a love that comes from it. And I think I even, like, read in her, like, acknowledgements, she was, like... She read a lot of, like, video game nonfiction books, like talking about the creation of video games and the industry and all those things. And like, as someone who like grew up around video games, like my brother loves video games and I like video games. I'm not nearly like the gamer my brother is. I just have such an appreciation for them and they're just such a part of my life. I think like I just recognize all the characters and like I love the idea of video games. So I think that like hit me in like a very heartfelt way because I'm an artist and I'm like sensitive about my stuff, you know, like it's that Erykah Badu quote, like that is them to the T. Like they get so mad when the other one wants to critique their work, and it's like I get it, like I'm the same, like I get that. And so I think that's why I felt for both of them, and I was never on one character side versus the other, and like I feel like I just saw both sides, and that's why it's so heartbreaking that like it's so heartbreaking that their friendship, like they like get to a neutral place, I think, by the end of it, but it's never the same, and it's so, I don't know, it's just so like heartbreaking. But also it's like, that's life. Like, you find friends and you have them for a season, and they're your friend for that season, and then things happen, like whether it's like you move apart or like if you grow apart or whatever, but like then you kind of have to like mourn the loss of that friend. And I mean, they literally have to also mourn a friend that something bad happens to that friend. But it's like, I think it was just so special, and why it's a 5 out of 5 on my list is because it takes this very vague world of like friendship and like, oh my god, we're best friends, and oh my god, I don't like you anymore, and like, oh, I love you so much, and oh, I don't know how I feel about you. And instead of it just being like a romance love story, like they use the mechanism of video games, and it just grounds it in such a, oh my gosh, it's so great, and I cannot wait to read it again. In fact, I may read it again this year. Friendship is obviously something that's very important to me. Like, I love my friends to death. I have a great family as well. That's not to say I don't have a great, but my friends, even from like a little young tot, I always was like, I just love friends. Like, I loved having people that loved the things that I loved, that like we could bond over that. And as I got older, it kept blossoming, and like to this day, like some of my best friends like do theater, like we just have these things that we all do and love, and then we're friends on top of it. So it's like, I think I really felt love for all of my friends reading this book, and I think that's why it's so heartbreaking, because I would hate to go through what these two had to go through with the best friend. That's the best one, and that's the last one that I read also in 2024. That is gonna be it, I think, for this one. This year, 2025, I'm hoping to read more books. I don't want to like put a number to it, because like, it is what it is. I'm kind of a slow reader, but I can get through some books. I've already read a couple this year, and by a couple I think I just mean one. But so I'm on my second book of the year, and I love it. It's going great. I'm gonna save them, talk about them later, probably along the road. So if I had to reread any of them, obviously Tomorrow would be number 1 on my reread list. If I had to reread like a second one, I would pick The Palace of Eros, I think. Just because, I don't know, it also just like hit me in like a very, maybe it's my non-binary heart. But something about that just really spoke to me as well. And like the whole theme of like Eros's whole thing in Palace of Eros is like, love is love. Like, it's very that. It's like, why do I have to fit into your box that Zeus has made for Eros in terms of like picking to be a boy or a girl and like all these things, and like you don't get to do, you want to play around like a guy. Like, there's like this whole thing where like Zeus goes into Eros and is like, you can be a little girl like your mom, or you can be a boss man like me, but you gotta choose. And it's very just like, it's so telling of like the world of like. So I would reread Palace of Eros as well. But the other ones were good. They were all really good. I just don't think I need to read them again. And then, yeah, ones that I'm never going to read again are Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. Great. That's the video. So I hope this was fun. I hope I was able to edit this down to like a sensible amount of time. If not, thank you so much for getting to the end of this video, because I'm sure it's like been like 5 hours. If you are at the end of this video and you haven't subscribed to this channel, my question becomes, is it fun searching my name? Because you have to find me at this point. Just subscribe, and then you have it. I'm just right there whenever you need to see me. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. If you haven't liked this video, go ahead and give it a like. You can comment something down below, say hi, say if you liked any of these books, if you've read any of these books, I'd love to hear about it. Suggestions for next year, also I'll take those. And yeah, guess what? There's another video here if you wanna watch them. In this area, I'm thinking there'll be something for you to watch. Bye!